I have an ownership team that I consult with. Um, they are all equal owners of a company that they inherited because they're all also siblings. And when their parents passed on the company, they became joint owners. And so they've got the issues of being family, but they've also got the issues of how to deal with this company. And so they end up talking about are how do they fill out expense reports? Well, expense reports, that's really not what the issue is about. There's really some much bigger issues, but the bigger issues are ones that they're not sure that they can really handle addressing. So they do those small stuff. If we're going to actually address the conflicts that are arising in our relationships with others, there's some kind of prep work that we need to do. The first thing is that we have to be people who have permission to create what we need. Do you have permission to create what you need? Well, if you do, then how come you don't have what you need? There's ways in which we don't really give ourselves permission to create what we need. The biggest part of that, though, is we don't actually know what it is that we need. We know what we want. Second question is, are you willing to change what you're doing? Is there something that bothers you so much that you would be willing to change how you're showing up? Because we're the only people I'm the only person I can change, right? And the third is, what's the one thing that you want to work on? It's amazing how many people get tripped up on this because they're like, well, I need to work on, but I also need to, and so they can't settle on one thing. Most of you have heard the question, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we've got to pick one thing to work on. And there are lots of things to work on. And any time a conflict arises, there are going to be probably several issues that sort of feed into it. Particularly the most significant of our conflicts, they're a kind of perfect storm where there's a bunch of different issues that come together. Now, it may be that as we're learning this technique, you're going to want to pick something small to work on, something small, something that happens frequently, so you'll get lots of opportunities to practice. But the big ones are just, they're too big. We're going to choke on them. We're too overwhelming. I just want to urge you to practice on little stuff that happens frequently so that you get the hang of it. But understand that you're going to get the biggest impact. You're going to have the biggest bang for your buck, as it were, by addressing the largest conflict, the one that's the most comprehensive. In some ways, it is structurally the simplest, but it's also emotionally the most difficult. When we can begin to deal with whatever is the biggest bother and we resolve it, then the next biggest bother is not that big a deal. We're not going to run out of things that bother us. There are always going to be conflicts. But to the degree to which we feel like we've got the skills, we've honed our chops here, we know what it is we're doing, I urge you to go after the biggest bother. That's going to have the biggest payoff, all right?